What's up, everybody? Nice to see you again. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. All right. So today, you know what? I'm a little disappointed because I got, I really wasted a lot of money. You know why? Because today we're talking about UFC 170. UFC 170, right? My review, Basil the White Dragon Masters here, chapter 15 review for UFC 170. I was really looking forward to this card. I really was. Number one, because I don't like Ronda Rousey, right? The main event, which was Ronda Rousey versus Sarah McMann. And I just saw it, and I'm flabbergasted with what happened. I mean, this is probably the worst night, one of the worst nights that I've witnessed or had the pleasure of witnessing, and I really feel like I wasted my money buying this freaking stupid pay-per-view for for like $65 that we have to pay for this shit, right? And UFC 170, I'll just, let's just get right into it. I'm going to talk about the last three fights, which were the last main fights, right? Let's start off with the third last fight, which was Damian Maia versus Rory McDonald. That was an interesting fight. I think it was a great fight. I personally loved it. Damian Maia creamed Rory McDonald in the first round. I actually thought that he won that particular round, which he did. He won that round. But then in the second round and third round, Rory really picked up, and then he really started teeing off. I still believe, I still believe that Rory really needs to work on his boxing. Rory McDonald, despite how great he's a great fighter. He's got amazing heart, and he's really good at grinding and whatnot. But he's still, in my opinion, as an MMA fighter, as a martial artist myself, just by judging by him moving his hands, his punching, honestly, I think he needs to really work on his boxing. His boxing is not crisp. It's not like he doesn't have the crisp. His boxing is sluggish, and that's why he got caught and knocked out in his last fight against Robbie Lawler, because I've noticed his boxing is not as efficient as it should be for somebody who comes from apparently he likes to call himself a boxer, but I think he's a wrestler. I mean, he's a wrestler. But yeah, I still think he needs to improve his boxing. He's still behind, if you ask me. He should have finished Damian Maia, in my opinion, in the first round, or at least in the second round. This fight should have not gone to the third round. It shouldn't have gone to the third round. I mean, he won the decision. He won the decision because he was beating him up and grinding, but he did not finish the fight. He couldn't finish the fight. He's a finisher. So for me, it was a surprise that he couldn't finish Damian Maia. Even though Damian Maia is a great jiu-jitsu guy and whatnot, and he's great. I'm not trying to put him down or anything. But I mean, Damian Maia is not the type of guy who's really, he could have, if Rory wanted to cement his place in the welterweight division, which is the 170 pounds, then he should have beaten Damian Maia. He should have, knocked him out, TKO'd him or something. Okay. But he won. It was a good fight. It was an interesting fight. I enjoyed that fight a lot. In fact, that was the only fight I really liked. That was the only fight I liked. I mean, there was nothing else. Everything else was just bullshit. It was crap. And I'm going to move on with that. So, good job on Rory's part. In my opinion, he needs to really work on his boxing. He really does, so that he doesn't get caught and he's better off. He can react better from other people's punches coming at him, because he just doesn't seem to react well. He gets caught a lot getting hit. Moving on. Let's move on to the second last fight, which was the co-main event, which I thought was going to be a grudge match. I mean, these fucking UFC guys got so involved with this whole Patrick Cummins shit. Oh, Patrick Cummins is coming back. Oh, he's this, he's that. He's 40 people don't want to fight him. It's his debut in the UFC. He made Daniel Cormier cry, and back in the Olympic days, and in his wrestling, wrestling arena, and yada 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 yada, and all that talk. And Patrick Cummings kept talking, and I was like, man, this guy better be as good as these guys say he is. I mean, these guys marketed this guy. I mean, I wouldn't market a movie star the way they marketed him. The co-main event was Patrick Cummings versus Daniel Cormier. Obviously a grudge match because of all the shit talk that was going on between Patrick Cummings and Daniel Cormier. I thought that Patrick Cummings was going to kick his. I'm sorry, I thought he was going to kick his ass. Just based on what I saw, just based on how these guys are marketing him, and just based on what his resume is like. That that he's got such great fights, and 40 people don't want to fight with him, and he does gymnastics. He's a big 205er. He can cream Cormier. He's beaten Cormier. Yada yada yada. All that crap, right? I was expecting this fight to go somewhere. This fight pissed me off. I mean, I was pissed. Really, I was pissed when I saw this fight, because for me it was like, why do you have to overhype somebody so much that they don't even make it past the first round? It's like this guy got his ass handed to him by Daniel Cormier. He was talking. The UFC was just freaking talking as well. And at the end of the day, this fight didn't even last a minute. I mean, I think this fight lasted maybe a minute and a half. 2 minutes tops, I'm thinking, because this fight ended really, really quickly, and Patrick Cummings sucked. I mean, I'm not trying to say that he sucks as a fighter. Could have been his bad night, because the UFC jitters. It's probably his first time, in the UFC and stuff like that. But he got his ass kicked by Daniel Cormier. So that happened, and that happened very quickly. If he gave him a good fight, and if it went on for a couple of 2 rounds at least, this fight ended so quickly. It was so disappointing. I was like, whatever. Anyway, Daniel Cormier took him down, beat him up, okay, TKO'd him, and, first round, and basically Daniel got his revenge. Daniel Cormier got his revenge for what Pat Cummings did to him back in his Olympic days when he made him cry or whatever. Apparently that stuff was supposed to stay in the locker room, but, came out. So, yeah, Daniel Cormier got his revenge, finished Pat Cummings in one or 2 minutes of the first round. Bullshit, in my opinion, debut for Patrick Cummings. Let's move on to something else. Let's move on to the main event. We were talking just now about Patrick Cummings and Daniel Cormier, which is 205, light heavyweight division, which basically is my division, but the one I used to fight for, 205 or 185. Let's move on to the main event. The main event, all right? The main event, which I was waiting for, which was Ronda Rousey versus Sarah McMann. Ronda Rousey, who is currently the UFC female or women's champion, was undefeated, 8-0 I think is her record. Now it's probably 9-0. Taking on Sarah McMann. So when I saw Sarah McMann at the weigh-ins, and when I saw her today, she looked ready, and she looked so... she was fucking cut up, man, and I'm not kidding. She was just she looked so tough, and she's no slouch. She's a silver medalist in Olympic wrestling. Ronda Rousey is a bronze medalist in judo. So, she's definitely Olympic-wise. Sarah McMann is a lot more superior than Ronda Rousey, but in MMA, it's not about just grappling. It's about striking. It's about ground control. It's about submissions and all that stuff. So when you add all these arsenals in there, then it's not so much who's got the better medal. It's about who's really good at everything else. In conjunction with what they're great at. So another disappointment. Very, very disappointing fight. I really thought that Sarah McMann was going to give Ronda Rousey a better fight than she did. In fact, she started off very aggressive. She went on and she was just, punching, doing her thing. Ronda was hitting her back. And in fact, Ronda got tagged in that fight several times. Her face was a little bit busted up at the end. But this fight ended in 1 round 5-round championship match, and it ended in 1 round. Ronda just grabs her, and, you know, she knees her in the liver a couple of times, and Sarah McMann goes down. I mean, apparently the referee stopped it, but she was down. I mean, clearly Sarah McMann lost. But I was so disappointed because she's supposed to be such a great fighter. And she's undefeated. She was undefeated till today. So for me, it was a surprise as to how she lost. It's not that she lost. Everybody can win. Everybody can lose. That's not the problem. It's just how you lose. You know, when you're at that level, you can't lose like that sometimes. And it happens. You know, it's happened. Not knocking anybody. It happens. But for me, as a spectator, as somebody who's a diehard martial artist, I'm sure you all know Basil, Basil the White Dragon Masters. I've been doing martial arts for 25 years. You know, it's my life. As a viewer, as a fan, everything, and as a fighter, for me, I feel like I totally wasted my money. These fights, for the first time, were not worth my money at all. Nothing. The only fight that was worth my money was the third fight, the third last fight, which was Rory McDonald versus Damian Maia. That's it. The other 2 fights were shit. They all ended in the first round, and they were just quick. I don't have nothing to say about that. But however, we don't know what's next for Ronda Rousey. I'm sure it's probably the winner of the prelim cards. If they really want something interesting for me to really have a lot of fun, I mean, and I'm sure majority of you guys who follow the UFC, they have to bring Christine Cyborg. They have to bring Cyborg, and Cyborg is going to knock this bitch out for sure, right? It's going to happen. But I don't understand why they're not having this great puncher come in. It's like I feel like, you know, the UFC doesn't want to sign her up because they're afraid that, you know, their poster girl is going to go away. But, you know, that's just my opinion. I think that that Ronda Rousey is easily beatable if she finds a girl who knows how to really knock her out. And I think Cyborg is it. Maybe Kat Zingano, who knows. But, yeah, very disappointing night. A very disappointing night. I really felt like I wasted a lot of time and money on this pay-per-view, which was UFC 170. Let's just hope that the next UFC... I mean, you know, sometimes it happens. Sometimes you can't blame people. People lose. People win. It's not a big deal. It's just how, you know, we spend a lot of money, and that's the problem. It costs a lot. $65. Plus your cable bill. So anyway, guys, I'm sorry. This is my 2 cents. The White Dragon's 2 cents on, on the review on the UFC. I hope you enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it, but hopefully the next UFC, which is UFC 171, and in between we're going to have some UFC fight nights that I might do a review on, but UFC 171, which I'm really looking forward to. Now, this is going to be an interesting fight. UFC 171 will be a great fight, I can tell. It's going to end quickly. I mean, I know for a fact, it's Johnny Hendricks versus Robbie Lawler. Both knockout artists, both, whoever hits first is going to go down. So, anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy it, and for now, Basil the White Dragon Masters, out!